All right. Welcome back to the BigCheese AI podcast. I'm here. Kind of. It's Thursday, June 12th, 2025. We got Jacob.
Yo.
We got Brandon.
Hello, friends.
And, you know, today we're going to talk about a topic that is, we kind of talk about, but we don't really talk about, which is, why don't people use AI? So why don't people use AI?
Okay,
let's you know, I think everybody's got a few things they want to talk about, but let's start with.
So what was interesting is I had a meeting this week with this wonderful lady that I've worked with for a long time, and she was just like, she works at a big tech company here in town, and was wondering how she can kind of be better at using AI. And so that's when I just asked her, I'm like, well, how do you actually use AI in your day-to-day life? And she's like, well, I don't. And I'm like, well, why not? She's like, I don't really know. Like, I hadn't really thought about like all the ways that I'd be able to leverage AI in my day to day. And so we just start kind of talking. I start talking about the ways I'm using it. And it almost seems like there's a lot of people, we'll get into the people who won't use it for like, because of ethical concerns or whatever. But I think there's a lot of people that just don't even know necessarily like all the things that you can use it for. One of the ones I use it for all the time is taking photos. Like if I'm working in the garage or something, again, clearly my vision's horrible, right? So anytime I have labels, anytime I have anything like that, I'm just like, I can't read this or whatever. I'll take photos of it and be like, hey, find me this or tell me about this or figure out how I use that. And that is just like, so, I mean, using it in your day to day, for me personally, is the best way for you to understand how to do it. So that really kind of kicked off that kind of conversation of like, why don't actual people use it? And the ones that I hear is mainly just because they haven't really thought about all the different ways you could leverage it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the easiest way to get into AI is to use the vision models on ChatGPT, just with the ChatGPT app, taking pictures.
Yep.
But you know,
so like when you're doing that, what kind of things are you using them for?
So I mean, literally the same thing as you. I had a light that had been out. It was a canned light. It was out in my living room for like probably 3 months, just out. It had gotten water in it. I can't remember why. I think there was I don't remember, there was a leak that got in there. And I think I don't remember. I think maybe the bathtub overflowed for like a quick minute. It wasn't a bad one. Right. And then the light went out and I was like, I don't know where, I didn't put this thing in. Didn't have a very strong label. Took a picture of it. ChatGPT knew exactly what it was. Right. Went to Lowe's and it knew exactly what it was, and I was able to just basically search for that and find it on the internet.
Or the 4.0 image model is actually like really, really impressive. Not just understanding like what's in photos, but then also taking them and applying them. So I was out back working on trimming up some bushes, and I ended up just like butchering it to a point where I'm like, these things gotta go. I'm ripping the bushes out completely. And at the end of it though, I'm like, what should I do? I have no idea like what I should now do with this deck area. So I just take a photo of the deck and I'm like, I want to put some boards across the bottom here, maybe do some mulch, do this. Sure enough, it generates an image and I'm like, well, there it is. That's what I want to go for now. I mean, it was just like, it's funny because like you can see how it does such a good job, but it's still just a little bit off, but good enough that it passes the mustard.
Yeah, I think the most recent use I've had in my personal life is Siobhan, you dropped a can of that's my fiance, a can of something on her foot, swelled up really bad, turned purple. Oof. It was like a week ago, and I'm like, you're fine. It's probably just a bruise. But it got progressively worse. I'm like, all right, hold on, hey Chad. So I like described the symptoms, and sure enough, Chad was like, yeah, it's normal for a contusion to turn darker and to move on your foot and all that. But you might want to go get an X-ray. And she went and got an X-ray, and it's clear she's fine. But like those types of like situations, it's kind of hard to Google that, right? Like because normally that would include like trying to describe your symptoms and then looking for someone having the same situation. You can find it for sure.
Well, you pay for Gemini, right?
Yep.
Does the search, like when you're doing Google search, can you do like more image stuff now beyond just like searching for similar images? Like, does it have any of that kind of baked into it anymore?
Currently? I actually don't know.
The document stuff on Gemini is not good, dude.
Google's never really been super strong with the documentation side of things.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're new to AI and you want to use it in your personal life, I highly recommend downloading the ChatGPT app on your phone and paying the $20 a month. You will find $20 of value in the app, no doubt. I've done some really crazy things. I've taken, let's say, I have three kids, and they all have different schedules. for like sports and stuff, I've taken images, PDFs, CSV files of all their different schedules and just thrown them at ChatGPT and been like, hey, create a consolidated schedule for me for all of our spring sports. And it's outputted it. And then I go, okay, great. Put that into an ICS file, and I'm going to share it with my wife.
And it did.
And it did it perfectly.
I just took a picture of my Topo Chico blueberry and hibiscus. It knew all the little.
I mean, and think about how many the Vision API is really so useful for your personal life, and just to get into AI, just to understand the value of it.
Yeah, the first time I used Chat Vision was at a restaurant, a fancy ass restaurant that had all these fancy ass words. I was like, can you describe to me what this? It sounds pretty good, but I don't know 7 of the words. I'm not going to look up every single one of them.
Have you seen the viral video of the guy at the club? There's like these girls like all twerking around, like, okay, but he's got this. He has this bottle, right? And he's taken a picture of it and uploaded it somewhere, and he saw the actual price, like the retail price of this bottle, and he's looking at the menu of the price he just paid for it, and he just goes like, you just see him just like slouch in his chair and sit back because he looked up the price.
Isn't that a thing at restaurants where the second most expensive bottle of wine is the highest margin? Because the cheapest one they know will make you look cheap. So most men don't, or not most men, but most consumers won't buy the cheapest. But like, let's just say a scenario, a man's on a date and he's buying a bottle of wine. I think that's the psychology around it.
Sure.
So you could probably, I'm going to try that next time. Take a picture and say, what's the margins on all these? And see if it can.
Ridiculous. I mean, it is absolutely, the price of alcohol is, and it sucks because like every time I go out to eat, I have to get a drink. Like, it's just like, it's part of my thing. And every time I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it this time. I'm just going to go. I'm going to get a water. And I'm going to have a good time, whatever. I go there, sure enough, sit down. They have a cider on tap. I'm just like, yeah, let's get that. And you're paying $8 for a friggin' drink that you literally could go buy a 6-pack for the same price. Just nuts.
Also, in my personal life, my 12-year-old daughter is like 100% all in on ChatGPT, like as a platform. Tests out business ideas. Oh. Like she created a stress ball business, and she didn't actually launch it. She actually just used it to go through scenarios.
Right.
And she created like a whole profit margin. Like, how much would it take for me to make each one? Here's the things. And then like, how much would I make on each one? And just has conversations with ChatGPT. She also decided she wanted to start a restaurant, but then she had a conversation with ChatGPT and literally came to dinner last night. She goes, "Restaurants don't make money, Dad." I was like, "No, well, some do, but most don't."
Right.
And it was just like looking through and going through scenarios. I mean, I think another example, and I think this is if you just, for the people, anyone who's a laggard on AI, think about how much mental load it is to plan a trip. Right? I'm sure you used this when you went to New Zealand. Yeah. Wife goes Sunday night, didn't think about it, right? She's like, "We got to plan our trip to Boston. We got to do this, do that." And I was super tired, and I just had a really long weekend, and I was like, "What do you want to do?" She's like, "Well, I want to go to this place in Rhode Island." Okay, cool. What do you want to do? "I want to go to Fenway Park." I said, and I literally was like, "All right, hey ChatGPT, please plan a trip, and I need these 3 things dealt with." And I was like, "I also want to go to the North End. You don't know anything about that, Isa, but that's, we're going to do that too. And here's the days we're going, and it created this whole plan for a whole trip. And that was that was 3 minutes. Right. That was 3 minutes of my life. And we're literally following that plan to a T. It's about AI at its best use case right now is reducing your mental load.
So there's a conversation that was happening on Facebook with one of these guys. He's an educator, but basically the fear of what AI is doing to the kids, where they're not thinking. That's kind of where the take of a lot of the educators right now is that AI is making it so they don't actually have to think. They can just put things in, they can get answers back out, and then move on with their job. But at the same time, like what your daughter was doing, right? Like is like that never would have happened.
No,
that never would have happened. Her brain, those things would never have been firing off in her brain. Maybe they would have a little bits here and there, but never like what it did.
Well, it's like coming up with your own story problem and working it through yourself versus like it just being fed to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
We might be in the phase now where like what was passable, expectations will continue to go up. And like, yeah, there's a world now where you can put garbage in, get garbage out, and it's passable, and then like would have been decent work, 5 years ago or whatever. But like as expectations rise, like you're going to have more critical thinking as you're doing these things, right? Like I'm sure it's to a lesser degree, but like the calculator was probably said the same thing. Like, oh, kids aren't going to learn no long division anymore, and like how will they need to do their derivations and all that shit. And it's like they need to know how to get to that, but they don't need to do
You can apply it. Then you apply that knowledge and you go and you do other things. And that's kind of like what it seems like. Everybody just thinks that if all of a sudden an AI is answering things for us, we just stop. Like humans just stop being creative. Like, no, we won't. Like, people will be. Now, there's going to be people who aren't going to be creative, and that's totally fine. Those people will always be. They'll always take the cheap way out. They'll always cheat. They'll do their things.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be the other group of people who are just motivated by creating. And those are the ones who will be able to take this and just rocket ship.
Yeah. So I was, we're talking about why people don't use AI a little bit. I was on Reddit, of course, the other day, and it was a NBA East meme war subreddit. If you guys have ever seen that, it's amazing. So basically, everybody just goes and talks shit about the East, and the Pacers are in the finals right now. And somebody put obviously AI generated a tornado that was corn, so they called it a cornado, and it was hitting the Oklahoma City's stadium, right? And people had this whole philosophical discussion about like how it wasn't good because AI generated it. And the guy was like, well, wait, it took me like an hour to like prompt and reprompt and like get this figured out. And like, it was asking the question like, oh, so if he had spent 4 weeks drawing that and came to the exact same conclusion, would that have been more worthwhile? Like, right. I do understand the general concept of like not putting very much critical thought and like getting a kind of a bullshit lame thing output. But like, if you spend time to produce it with whether you use a tool to accelerate that outcome or not, like, I don't think the work you put into it is like what makes it worthwhile. Right. It's like the output, right? Yep. So I don't know. Yeah. That just kind of irritated me, but also was funny.
Well, there's things that are being created that would have never otherwise been created. 100%. That guy wouldn't have created that image. Yeah, that he would have shared a dumb post. We're gonna tornado you, right? Like no. Like this morning, there's a baseball game. North Central made it to semi-state. Okay, first time in 30 years. And one of my buddies, his kid's on the team, and he wanted to send an email out, and he was like, here's a text for the email, and then he 30 minutes later, I got it, and he was like, I really wanted an image, so I went to ChatGPT and generated this image, and it's great. Yeah. And we sent the email on, and it looked super professional. Otherwise, that email would have looked like trash, right? Yeah. It's like, what are we talking about here? It's
going to level everybody up, and that's what just drives me nuts. Is everybody it's not going to stagnate. Like, knowledge is not going to stagnate.
No,
we never have, we never will. And it's just going to accelerate. Yes, there's going to be the laggards. There's going to be the people that are going to get left behind. That just happens with everything. Like any new technology that comes out, it's going to impact the old. It's going to motivate the new. And you either adapt or retire. Like,
I was on Instagram. I don't know. Maybe Jacob sent this to me. Somebody sent this to me. But there was a video, and it was from the early 90s. And it was this guy, and he had gone to the library. And he was like, "Dave, do you have any lyrics from the new what was her name? I don't know. It was like Shania Twain or it was one of those folk artists from the 90s, okay?" And the guy was like, "No, I don't. We don't have lyrics for." But he's like, "Here's this thing. It's on the network, and you look it up. It's the World Wide Web." And he shows this guys how to use a computer and how to look up this information. And the guy was like so jacked, right? He was like, he had this access to this information that he would have never had otherwise, right? Did that make him that had nothing to do with idiocracy or it just had to do with access to information.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that we're talking about very baseline, like just get into it use cases of AI, right? We're not talking about an argument about creation or utilizing AI to write code or engineer things or whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about literally the most basic things you should be doing right now to make your life easier. Because life isn't easy.
No, it's not.
It's busy.
Yeah.
And you got to maximize your time, right?
The one, I'd say the most valuable thing that I use AI for right now is take my meeting notes or take meeting transcripts, just dropping the whole thing into whether it's my local model or OpenAI, and then just transforming that into literally 1,000 different outputs, right? You could be asking it questions. You could have a chat, be like, what the hell did we talk about? Because again, when I'm on a call or if I'm in a meeting or whatever, I'm just in acting mode, right?
Right. Well, and that frees you up because all that stuff that you're doing actually gets preserved.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's been a godsend because the moment that I have to sit and try to take notes for things, then I'm just lost or whatever. So now I can just kind of get up there and do my dog and pony show. Yeah. And the next thing you know, boom, I've got everything that I would ever need and more.
I actually look like when people take notes now, I'm actively noticing. I'm like seeing an inefficiency point. Like even if it's just like a even if it's just like a meeting with me and my wife and my dad, my grandpa have like a meeting to try to plan our weeks because they're so complicated. Like I'm looking at that and I'm going, oh, there's notes that need to be taken in this. So we just had a huge missed opportunity, right? Like no one's like, what are you going to do with that note? Nothing.
No,
You're not
because
doing anything with that
I
note.
won't even remember what the hell I was referencing because I'm doing it in shorthand.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
that, and you're spending time thinking about what you should be writing down. I still think there's value of like, oh, that was something important. Take a quick note.
Sure.
But to Sean's point, you're taking
yourself
cognitive
out.
load. Yeah, and like it's like when you meet someone for the first time, and like you're like, okay, what's their name? Your name, and they're telling you some things, and you're like, well, wouldn't it be tight if you could record that and just be like,
That's
just a little whisper, be like, his name's Jeremy. Remember that? You're gonna never forget in 2 minutes.
It's got to be what OpenAI is releasing with IO,
Yeah.
with Johnny Ives. It's got to be, and basically the humane. I think it's going to be the humane pin, the equivalent of the humane pin, but like good.
Well, let's talk about that because this week we had WWDC for Apple, and they spent the first 30 minutes talking about liquid glass, and the stock is going down. It didn't tank. I posted on Reddit that it was tanking, and I got a ton of responses, but I just trying to charge the crowd up. But it was. I thought it was the most potentially like misled presentation I've ever seen. Because the future is not buttons and clicking and UI. They were talking about a refined state of using a device that's probably going to be antiquated in a couple of years.
Also,
That's a really good point.
they just reintroduced a bunch of accessibility issues that we've already been through this before.
know.
I'm like, yeah.
The last thing they needed to do was continue to invest in how buttons click. Because guys, Ivan and Altman are going to come out with something that doesn't even have a screen.
Yeah, no, it kind of shocked me how much effort they put into liquid glass. Again, there's a ton of technology that's into it. Right?
Same.
It is. It's absolutely like it is a new type of element that you can incorporate, that it's got all this like refracting and all that. Great. But it's just like, I was fine with just having, like, I could actually read some of it, because again, I've been using it now pretty much that day I installed it. And there is a lot of readability issues.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a ton, especially when you pull down. Now, again, this is, I'm sure there's a lot of improvement that they've got to go through and that it's going to continue to improve. But at the same time, there's some just foundational things of the light and the dark that make it very hard to read, that the lights are switching. It's happening depending on what's behind it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like reminds me of skeuomorphism.
Yeah.
And whenever that got really popular, I'm just like, I'm not sure we need that.
Right. And so many of them look like iOS 6 icons, that they killed when they launched iOS 7. So in 10 years from now, they'll launch the new flat design that won't have any of this stuff in it, and we're just going to basically
It's just so much. It's such a reflection of how that Apple as a company is unable to do anything besides what they were doing. I mean, there's a huge investment in their property, in their code base, in their UI framework. But like they can't step out. Like they literally built an institution around these departments, and they don't even know how to disrupt themselves. Right. So, I mean, I told you I sold Apple. I've been out on Apple for a while.
Right.
But that whole thing reinforced that all they're able to do at this point is incrementally improve what they already have.
Right. When Jobs came back, once they bought Next and Jobs came back, they were in a kind of I won't say that they're in a similar boat because they were obviously financially in ruins, but they had their stock stuff. They had a bunch of standard stuff. They had all these products. They had all this bullshit that didn't really matter, that didn't have a lot of impact. And only Jobs was able to come in and basically say 4 products, kill everything else. Everything else is gone. 4 products, pro laptop, consumer laptop, pro desktop, consumer desktop.
And hey, you know what? And I think if there's one thing to say about Jobs, I don't think Jobs would have given up on Vision OS or the Vision Pro so quickly. I think that.
Do you think that they've given it up?
I don't necessarily think they have, but do they? I mean, they don't market it.
Yeah, they're definitely not marketing it.
And it's not growing.
Yeah.
And and people have said that it's one of the coolest things, right? But like that's whole spatial computing space. I don't know if I think if Steve Jobs was around, they would have had newer products, and I think people would have bought into them. And I think that at this point, I think their leader is an operational
100%.
guy.
Yeah.
I do think it's fundamentally flawed, like the platform in general. Like you're not going to wear, maybe I'm wrong, but like you're not going to wear this big ass thing. Glasses make more sense. Like augmented reality makes more sense. But yeah, just like I loved it. I did the demo. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. But my head hurt in 30 minutes of wearing it. I'm like, well, I'm not going to work all day in that thing.
I think if they fixed a couple things, maybe, but I could totally see myself working with goggles on for at least a couple hours a day.
So I think
Not with the 10 pounds of weight on my head.
The 10 pounds of weight is a problem. The glasses makes all the sense to me, right? Like once you can get glasses, you've got the light waveform ones that you can actually like see some things during the daytime now, which is like the newer technology. I think the Ray-Bans that Facebook's doing has those. That's the form factor, right? It's not Ready Player One.
You don't think so?
No. Not the future. Absolutely not.
I want closed captioning on conversations.
That's what X-ray was.
It's like, okay, so some people are hard to understand, or maybe they speak a different language, or, I forget their name or whatever, like the Minority Report sort of thing, where it's 100%. Like, and just more accessibility and more ways to record what you're talking about and recall it later. And I was just talking to Sean about this earlier, where it's like, I'm on a meeting, I have a conversation on Slack, I've got an email, I've got, all these ways of inputs. And like, of course I can like do my best to remember and take notes and be organized as best I can. But like, it would be nice if I didn't have to have that cognitive, load of like, shoot, did I write that down? And like, oh, I switched to this thing midstream. Where did I leave off? Like, I don't know. I think that's, if we're talking about like how to make us better at our jobs and more creative, right? The whole point to me is like bringing up space to do creative stuff, unless oh shit, did I reply to that email that I said I would do, or what was I waiting on? Oh, lame.
Well, I think people probably overestimate what they get done on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to like they might get the dishes done and do the laundry maybe, but like when it comes to like actual deliverables, like a lot of what people end up doing is just exchanging communications back and forth, right? And like producing things that are assets, right? That are deliverables. That's something you learn, I feel like, as you get further along in college and grad school, and then maybe you get into some high level consulting, or you get involved in a world where like you have to give things to like C-suite type folks. But like deliverables matter, and you can utilize those in your life. Right. Like I have one of my best friends, my neighbor. He's so good at deliverables. Like his family goes on vacation, and they are so dialed. Like everything he does is like he's got a whole plan, but he always produces something.
Deliverables is such a funny word. I just imagine his wife being like, "Do you have the itinerary to deliver?"
He's a deliverable guy, and he was taught that. It was ingrained into his mind. Yeah. And he decided he's an artist. He's a drummer. He's a good drawer. He's like if Brandon wasn't super ADHD. You know what I mean? Like, and Brandon's a deliverables guy too. But you know what I mean? Like, there's something to that. I think getting back to why I'm saying that is just because I think that if you can utilize things to make you get a little bit more done quicker and stay in the flow, I think the AI is good for you. Like AI is good for that. And I surely use it, and it allows me to do things I wouldn't normally have been able to do inside of one day.
My life depends on it at this point. Like I have to have it. Without it, I'm just like, I don't know what to do at this point. Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't go home and there's a ChatGPT conversation going on where my 6-year-old has been on there and I just watched the conversation and he goes, "Please make a picture of poop in cartoon style." And then the next prompt is, "Put the poop on a stick." And then his response is, "Now you have poop on a stick."
Okay, that's amazing.
See, but so that's a great example though, is that it's giving kids the opportunity to think through and do things that they never would have been able to do before. And you just have no idea what that's going to ultimately lead to. Like, again, how old's your son?
6.
Okay, starting at 6. Give him now 10 years of doing this. What type of work, creative work, would he be able to produce? I mean, it's going to be absolutely insane.
It's really funny when kids get to be about 6 or 7 years old, because there's a couple different things that they start to understand. They understand time. Like, hey, this is this day at this time. That's a big realization for a kid. But like they'll start to understand, like, if it's a video game, they'll beat their first game. Like they'll be able to like go through and play at a level that's equivalent to a 9 or 10-year-old. But I think that the ability, ChatGPT is a total unlock for them too. He'll be like, I'll just go ChatGPT. That's what he calls it, ChatGPT. I'm gonna do that. I'll do that in ChatGPT. And so it's just another thing,
Right.
And that's why Altman. I said this in my talk the other day at the Venture Club was, older users use AI like a Google replacement. Millennials might be more of an advisor or consultant, and the younger generation's operating system. It's the full operating system, and figure out a way. So I think no matter who you are, what age you are, figure out a way to build an operating system for your life that leverages AI, so that you can live a happier, more productive life. Because personally, you can argue whatever about your hourly rate at work.
Yeah.
But what about your hourly rate at home?
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah. And also someone made a good point. I don't know where at, but they were just talking about everyone's consuming all the how to do and what's important and what should we care about. And what I think I admire about you guys, and I think I have this too, is like we like to tinker. And I think that's the best way to discover what's the best way, to use something. Like, because I think you need an idea, a framework of like how could you use it. That's important. But the easiest way to figure out how you can use something in your life is to try to use it and be like, that helped me. That alleviated some stress, or that was useless. I won't do that again. So just go out and I think people are afraid though. Like they're like, I don't know how to get started. I don't know.
My daughter doesn't use it, which is very bizarre. So my daughter and I are very similar in personalities. We're kind of more of the creative side, where my wife and my son are more of the kind of, they're not. And my son uses it all the time. My daughter's like, she just doesn't use it. And I don't have a good reason why. I'm not exactly sure. She just hasn't been, and which is surprising because, again, she was always an early adopter of technology. Then again, on the other side, I've got my dad who's 83, and he probably spends more time in ChatGPT than anybody I know. He is constantly in ChatGPT. It's bananas. Yeah.
What's he doing in there?
So, everything. Well, right now, he's been working with projects to work on writing a book. And like trying to figure out how we can kind of keep the chapters and everything in line, and like really kind of just pushing the ChatGPT through the paces of using the project features for book writing. The other one, though, is what really kind of got him excited about all of it was he has this visceral reaction to basically the student debt crisis, right? And his whole concept was this whole student debt crisis isn't like a panic. This didn't just happen. This is one bad decision at a time. And he's like, I want to help kids basically be able to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing after high school, and say, is that a good idea or not?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, well, we could totally do that with ChatGPT. Right. And so we basically put it all together in there, and you start off and you say, what are you thinking? What's your GPA? If somebody wants to be a vet at, a super expensive school that they're going to make $45,000 at the end of it, that's what's going to come out. It's going to tell them, hey, listen, this probably isn't a very good thing. And they've actually been doing it for the Union City Education Foundation. I think they've done like 20 or 30 kids, helped them kind of work through it. And it's been very beneficial. But yeah, everything he does now, any new thing he has to work on, he's going to go to ChatGPT and work through it. It's crazy.
My dad, you'd think he would be using it. No. Mom, no.
Mom, no.
Wife, yes, now. She was a big time laggard. But she just realized that by utilizing tools like Canva and ChatGPT, I know Canva's not necessarily an AI tool, but just starting to do things like that, like it was undeniable the amount of time she got back in her day.
Oh yeah. My wife's now a full convert to ChatGPT. Yeah, we're all day.
And so I wanted to talk since I think we've spent a lot of time talking about this one killer app, and I don't think anything's come close to it, and it's ChatGPT. Right. But there's a couple of things that I think we've touched on that I want to re-explore, which is the concept of your AI memory. And the longer that we spend on this thing and the more time we invest in this app, the more moat they have because they know us better. And they're building around that because they know that people are using them all day. But the second thing, and I think that this would like literally grab a hold of my entire life at this point, is they bought Windsurf for $3 billion. They have their Codex thing, but like how long is it going to be until I'm going to churn from Cursor and move on to whatever OpenAI's editor is because it knows me better?
Does the memory model of your ChatGPT experience, does that really impact the development?
It does, because that's where I generate all my Cursor rules and all my architectural and planning conversations happen on ChatGPT.
Got it.
By the way, I have a new strategy in Cursor that I utilized today, and I think it allows you to stay in Cursor for longer, but I literally was like, I instead of making a rules file, I didn't make a rules file.
Yep.
Okay, because it's kind of bullshit. Okay. The problem with the rules file is that it's not conversational. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I can't trust the context that it's going to stick it and keep it. But what it does prioritize is the conversation. So I literally, and I don't know if you've done this, but I said, hey, we're going to build this thing. I'm going to feed you some information. Don't write any code. Just acknowledge what I'm saying. I'm going to tell you this story one bite at a time. And I just kept telling him what we were going to do. Kept telling him what we were going to do. kept telling him what we were going to do. And it was just basically yes manning me the whole time.
Sure.
And then it would just reiterate and consolidate what I had said every time in its response. And so by the end of the conversation, it was like, so here's everything that we're going to do. It basically generated its own plan, right? Based off what I told it. And then I said, all right, now go execute.
Do you have like a to-do list that it's generating?
Well, kind of. It was
that seems like it would be like important, like as long as you have that to-do list, because like once you have that to-do list, it does do a pretty good job.
It was less prescriptive.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was more like, here's what I want. Here's what we're doing. Right. I didn't say, I want you to go to this file or I want you to implement this thing first. It was probably like a 75% plan.
Okay.
But it was, you know what I mean? It wasn't,
yeah.
And because I wanted it to one shot it.
Yeah, sure.
But
stepping it through, and it's funny you said that because that's exactly how my son uses it too. Is he's like, all right, we're gonna do this homework, and he's graduated now, so it's fine. I'm gonna tell this. He's like, we're gonna go through and we're gonna write this document. He's like, don't do anything. He's just say yes, I've got it. He just pastes. Okay, we're going to do this. Paste, working through it. So same exact kind of flow where you are. I mean, and as the context of model or size gets larger for these, you can have a whole lot of valuable stuff just happening straight there in the chat.
I was looking for some LinkedIn post. It was really good, and I'm going to butcher it, but it was basically like, we were talking about degrees earlier, and like we have a bunch of basically I think the point was we have a bunch of marketing people or people with marketing degrees doing like stuff that they shouldn't be doing, right? And like that's the risk of jobs. Is like I mean, I don't know how many organizations I've worked with where the marketing people are not thinking, bigger picture because they don't have the budget to hire enough people to execute, right? So they've got people who are probably good at marketing, but they're not really. Is that your elbow?
That was my elbow.
Oh, Jesus. They're not really living up to their full potential, right? Now, we can sit here and talk about whether that will be the reality of all the outcome of this, because I don't believe it will be. I think that, we're going to get a bunch of productivity gains and it's going to go to shareholders. But I do think, I do think that that's the potential. Like, that's the dream of like, get people doing more impactful stuff, like, and let the machines do the things that are not super impactful. Right. There's a lot of marketing and a lot of stuff out there that's the 70 or 80% solution is good enough. And let's move on to something more impactful, right? But I can't find the LinkedIn post or whatever, but something inspired me the other day and I was like, yeah, that does make sense. We do have a lot of really smart people doing not very smart things.
I love we need to revisit the video that Jacob created with, was it VO3?
Yeah.
What is the Google's video?
That's
generation?
VO3, yeah.
VO3.
Yeah.
So Jacob created this video and it was talking about crafting and then we just kept iterating on it and doing different, we got to do some more versions.
Yes.
But I love we need to create the meme of just like iterating over the same thing and just keep mashing it and keep layering and keep layering and keep layering.
Did you see the gorilla one where he like pranked? It was hilarious. He was like, I put a stick of dynamite. He's got like an Australian, I'm not going to pretend to have an Australian accent, but he put a stick of dynamite in someone's campfire and then it blew them all up. And he was like, ooh, that was a little more than I wanted. And then he's like got Zens and he's just like.
I've seen the two that were running.
Was that AI generated?
Yeah, it was all
AI generated. It's two of them. And but they did a bunch of mushrooms and they're running through the fields. They're like, I'm wigging out, man. And they're running around, dude. It's hilarious.
Yeah. We're going to create a whole new genre of everything.
And if you were really good at creating videos the manual way, you're going to be really good at creating stuff with these tools. It'll just take, I think the frustrating part is like, I'm sure everybody who did stuff by hand and then tools came in so more people could, it's the same iteration of like, no, it's a threat. It can be for sure. And it probably, there's going to be some downside. But yeah, I mean, I'm just like, those videos, I'm like, this is hilarious.
Yes.
And it just reminds me of all the times me and my buddies were smoking weed and being like, ooh, this is a funny idea. But none of us had the ability to execute.
But let's take that back real quick. The event last week, I met a HBO producer. He was in town and he's friends with Reese. Because Reese was in Hollywood. Well, guess what he said? He said every single episode of what was the Western on HBO? Deadwood. I think their average shoot day was $100,000 a day. Or it was either $100,000 a day or $300,000 a day. I think it was $100,000 a day. Yeah, it was $100,000 a day is what they were spending. And he was telling me how archaic some of their processes and flows are. And I was like, yeah, VO3, it's really salty. It's like $300 a month. And the guys just started laughing at me, right? Because they basically alluded to the fact that there's a lot of waste and a lot of fat in that industry to begin with. And I mean, I think that there's something to be said about that. Like,
Real quick, I think there's an overlap here with what happened to the music industry, right? So the music industry was not prepared for the Napster movement, and then all of a sudden, jobs coming in basically being like $1 per song, $10 per album, whatever it was, and then streaming services coming out. That it did systematically change the entire industry, how you made money, where you're making money. You're touring more, you're using merch, you're doing this, you're building up other avenues for revenue. It completely changed the industry. Didn't stop musicians. We have a lot more of them.
Yeah, there's a lot more, I would say a lot more good music.
I would say there's more visibility into stuff that you wouldn't normally have seen.
Exactly.
But you do have to pivot. You have to become now your personality, or you're touring more, or
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest, the consumers still paid, right? They just pay to see them live.
Right.
And they just increased the prices of that.
They're still not making the kind of money that
No.
right? But still passionate about being in a band. You're wanting to do music. You're still going to do it.
Have you guys seen Suno, the newest release? Go use it. It's hilarious. It's so good.
Right.
I made a country western song. Shivangi was like working on something late overtime or something, and just made a joke about how hardworking she is. And I was like, make me a country song that does this, this, and this, and how she's fed up with it.
Right.
And like it was so good.
That's the kind of reaction that I'm seeing right now. That's honestly, people are a little scared. Okay, so here's a story. 12-year-old daughter. Last weekend was our championship at our baseball and softball league. And she wasn't playing. We didn't make the championship. And she took a picture of her friend after her friend hit a home run. And they took a picture, and she was holding a softball, and she was holding a cheeseburger. Because if you hit a home run, you get a cheeseburger. Okay, in our league, you get a free cheeseburger. That's cool. So she held up the softball, she held up the cheeseburger, and she was smiling. Well, she took that image and uploaded it to ChatGPT and made a cartoon of it. Right. And then she's a little resourceful little girl, went to Michael's, bought a $3 shirt. They have those $3 like art shirts. Yep. And then she did that. She printed it off on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of white normal paper. And I guess they have those like screens you can just iron on the design onto the shirt.
That's
so
great,
she put it said Aaliyah. The girl's name is Aaliyah. And she shows up to the game wearing this shirt. I cannot tell you how many people came up to her and were so curious about this shirt.
Totally. Right.
Like there was a grandma that was actually like how did you do, like she wasn't scared. She didn't know anything about AI. Right. But then she told her it was tragic. She goes, I don't know anything about that. She thought that Maya was a superhuman.
Yeah.
And that's like what's happening with some of the creations, like the Suno thing. Like you're doing like it's almost like so good that it's kind of weird to even do it.
I know. So the only downside with Suno is that they will not do anything like inappropriate. I've tried so many times. There's one song.
It's changing society, but let me tell you why it doesn't say fuck.
No, but there's one song. I don't know if you guys remember. I glued my balls to my butthole. And it was a country song, and it's hilarious, and it went completely viral. So I'm fascinated. Like, how did they actually do it? Because I tried to go to Suno and try to recreate something similar, and it wouldn't do it. So they're obviously running local models to do this music generation, because there's a lot of those that are out there that are like completely things that Suno would not generate, but they're actually good quality. So it's either one of two things. It's either they have some local model that's really good that I just haven't been able to find, or they're doing what we were just talking about, where they already were doing good music. Now they're just using AI to basically piece it all together, and they're still in wherever they're doing their music stuff, and they're putting it all together manually, but it sounds so damn good. Those are going to be where we're going to be like, how did they even do this? Like, how did they make that so good? Those are going to be the ones that are going to be the new things to chase.
Yeah. It's going to keep elevating the expectations.
Right. Right.
Like I'm not buying into because AI made it, it's not good.
Right.
If it's not good, it's not good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my opinion. Like,
yeah.
I don't care if it took you 10 minutes or 10 hours.
Most music's just the same notes over and over. There's some little thing about it that makes you like it that's unique that they did. But speaking of really bad AI creation, there is something that is concerning to me that I've been getting into a little lately. So if you get on Twitter, if you get on Reddit, there's all these N posts of these automations. And N8N is the go-to tool for generating brain rot videos.
Those are the worst.
So there's a whole industry of destroying children with brain rot, and it's like gorilla versus goose, and it's like so what they do is they've created all these bots there's an army of bots and automations out there that are just creating like literally random, brainless, mindless AI content and automatically posting it to YouTube Shorts and TikTok. And it's hooking kids. It's like you should be at home watching, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or Bugs Bunny, but instead you're flipping through YouTube Shorts and just absolutely destroying your brain.
So I was very hopeful to see my son was like, no, I can't, because I don't have shorts on. I can't get to shorts on YouTube. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I've completely disabled it. I think you put an extension in there to block it. So like these younger kids, where like for me, I was just all about consumption, right? Like I never had any self-control over anything. Where like I think the newer generation, the whole concept of brain rot, the whole concept that these companies are just, or that these individuals are literally just trying to suck out your mind and turn you into a zombie. That hopefully that they use that as a means to say, okay, I need to get better control over my my online experience. I'm hopeful.
Yeah. No doubt.
We have another visitor. Who's the visitor? Hello? Oh, hey, Job. Job, you going to make a cameo?
Make a cameo, babe.
We got Job here.
You got to switch the camera, though.
Oh, yeah. Come here. Get in here.
Hey, it's Job.
Job just came here. I think our decals came in, too, by the way. Yeah, here.
What are the decals for?
They're our logo for the windows up front.
Oh, nice.
That's cool. Did you guys just frost it?
Yeah, Job did that yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going with that, but yeah, there's an army of
Well, I think what you're saying is very true. Like we're obviously optimistic. We're very bullish of AI. But there's the elephant in the room is there's a lot of downside.
Sure.
I mean, there's just what the deep fake porn site that got taken down recently.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was bad. I just got a headline, so I don't know if you know more about it, Brandon, but essentially it was taking people's likeness and making pornography around it, which is awful because now you're defaming people and doing things that without their consent.
Dude, I can't think,
But,
that's going to be such a problem for like high schoolers and all other people. Like that, and that stuff's got to have serious consequences. Like if you need to go to jail if you do something.
I think there will be. I think the ex boyfriend laws or whatever those things will be leveraged for that. Where they will, you're going to have some sort of a punishment. The only problem though is you can do that here in the States, right? But you're not going to stop China from doing it. But again, is China going to make?
Well, think about. I mean, I can't.
They should be.
The amount of nefarious stuff. And let's be honest, the amount of nefarious stuff that will happen will probably overshadow the good. At some level, especially when it comes to video generation, because there's so many bad things you can do with it, whether it's creating brain rot or deep faking. And I don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like everything. There's always like people, and then there's, on the less nefarious but still bad, you've got all these AI bots now. Like we've had a lot of clients that sites are just getting blown up. You have to put in. Of course, that it's good, not good for us, but like that's why you need experts that can be like, okay, here's how we can put in measures to mitigate that risk and to save you from this or that, But that's not the thing I want to be spending my time on. I don't want to be trying to mitigate AI traffic to your site. Like that sucks, but we do it.
Well, I think the moral of the story here is you personally take control of your journey and do it in a positive manner, right? Like you're busy. You do your thing, right? But you have this immense library of tools that you never thought possible. Start with the vision stuff. Go to ChatGPT, take pictures of stuff, figure it out, right? But also be wary, especially for you and your kids, like where a lot of the new content, the generation of content's coming from, because it's coming from a place that is fake. It's artificial, and it could be used for purposes that are not necessarily good. But at the end of the day, like it's here. It's not going anywhere. It's an inevitability, and you got to be on the right side of it. So if not for yourself, for your kids, like get in there and figure this stuff out.
Yeah. Have you seen the news anchor fakes that have been coming out?
Oh yeah. It's like to warn people.
Yeah.
And I think they should put that stuff on TV.
Yeah, I agree.
They should put that stuff on TV. They should be like, this video is fake.
Yeah, it's like an.
Oh yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I'm talking about?
right, yeah. Okay, yeah.
They'll have like a news anchor with the ocean in the background,
Right.
like Kraken will come up, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, this is fake."
Yeah.
But on a lighter note, have you seen the ones where they make the AI take shots, like shot after shot after shot, and like the AI is like, "Please God, no more alcohol." It's like the fourth wall kind of situation. Like I like those fourth wall AI videos where I'm like, "This is
cool."
It's just a little disturbing, but it's not real,
You're just a pro.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, I think we're going to call it a day. I appreciate you guys sticking with us. Why not use AI?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.